Jesus told some pretty wild stories, but there's one that seems designed to make every single hardworking person absolutely furious. And honestly, that was the whole point. We're going to dive into one of his most confusing parables, a story that, when you first hear it, just feels wrong, like profoundly unfair.
And this quote really gets right to the heart of it. The whole story is basically designed to show us that the kingdom of heaven, well, it just doesn't operate on our terms. The math, as you can see, doesn't add up. Why? Because it's not actually about what's fair. It's about something else entirely: grace.
All right, so let's break down this shockingly unfair story. What exactly gets the workers so angry? The central conflict is pretty simple. A landowner pays everyone the exact same wage, no matter if they worked a full 12 hours or just one. I mean, can you imagine? The guys who worked all day are understandably furious, but the real question is, what's the actual root of their anger?
And here's their complaint word for word. And you'll notice something really important. They're not actually complaining about being underpaid. Their problem is that the latecomers were made equal to them. That word right there, equal. That's the key to this whole thing. For them, this isn't just annoying. It feels like a deep, profound injustice.
So let's just look at the timeline of this day in the vineyard. It's wild. The first group gets hired at the crack of dawn, 6 a.m. But the landowner, he keeps coming back. 9 a.m., he hires more people. Noon, more people. 3 p.m., yep, more people. And then, get this, at 5 p.m., literally 1 hour before quitting time, he hires a final group. And when 6 p.m. rolls around, everyone gets the same pay. You can just feel the tension building, can't you?
Okay, so to really get what's going on in this shocking story, we actually have to zoom out for a second. See, this parable doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. Jesus tells it for a very specific reason. It's a direct response to a conversation he just had with his disciples, right in the chapter before, Matthew 19.
And here it is. This is the question that kicks the whole thing off. The disciple Peter, right after hearing Jesus say it's tough for a rich person to get into heaven, basically says, hey, look, we've left everything to follow you. So what do we get? He's asking for his return on investment, right? He's got this total business mentality. We put in the work, so what are our wages going to be?
And Jesus' response? It's this super cryptic, world-flipping statement. But many who are first will be last, and the last first. Whoa. He's basically laying down a principle that's designed to turn everything we think we know about status, rewards, and fairness completely on its head. And the story we're talking about, the parable of the workers, that's his way of explaining exactly what this wild idea means.
All right, so with that context in mind, let's zoom back into the story itself, because there are a few little details in here that are absolutely the key to unlocking this whole thing. First up, let's talk about the pay. A denarius. Now, it's really important to note that this wasn't some kind of exploitative lowball wage. Not at all. A denarius was the standard, totally fair pay for a full day of hard work back then. So the point is, the landowner didn't do anything wrong to those first workers. He paid them exactly what they agreed on.
And you have to appreciate how Jesus builds this story for maximum impact. A few key things to notice. First, the vineyard. To his original audience, that was a common symbol for the nation of Israel. Second, the master deliberately pays the last workers first. He's making a show of it, right? He wants everyone to see what's happening. And finally, think about it. Only the 6 a.m. workers complain. And again, it's not because they were underpaid, but because the owner's generosity made other people there equal.
So all of this is building to one moment, to the absolute cultural key that unlocks the entire parable. It comes down to a Hebrew idiom, and it really paints a picture of two completely different ways of seeing the world.
This is it. The landowner turns to the grumblers and asks this pivotal question. Now, in a lot of our English Bibles, it reads something like, "Do you begrudge my generosity?" Which is fine, but the literal translation, which gets at the original Hebrew idiom, is so much sharper. It's, "Is your eye evil because I am good?"
An evil eye. That's the core accusation here. The phrase in Hebrew is ayin ra, and it was a really common expression. It didn't mean you were casting a curse or something. It meant you were stingy, miserly. It's a way of describing a worldview that just can't stand to see other people get blessed. You resent their good fortune. So let's compare these two worldviews. You have the bad eye, the an ra. It's totally focused on me and mine. It sees a world of scarcity where everything is a transaction, and it demands fairness. It grumbles and complains anytime someone else gets a blessing it feels they didn't earn. But then you have the good eye. And this is God's perspective. It sees a world of abundance and generosity, and it actually rejoices when other people are blessed no matter what.
And right there, that's what finally solves the puzzle of this unfair story. You see, it was never actually about wages. It's about a completely different kind of economy altogether.
The first big takeaway is this: the kingdom's economy is not based on wages you've earned. You just can't approach the kingdom of heaven with a business spreadsheet. It doesn't operate on a system of I did this, so I get that.
So if it's not about wages, what is it about? It's based on mercy given. Because the real currency in this story and in God's kingdom, it isn't the denarius, it's mercy. It's this radical, totally unearned, extravagant grace that the landowner just pours out on whomever he chooses.
And this logic, this idea of radical mercy, it's not new. It has really deep roots in the Old Testament, connecting all the way back to the concept of Jubilee, what was called the year of the Lord's favor. This was a time for radical restoration and mercy. The whole goal wasn't to calculate what everyone had earned. No, the goal was to make sure that everyone was blessed, to proclaim good news to the poor and liberty to the captive.
So let's bring it home. What's the takeaway? How does this ancient, seemingly unfair story challenge how we see the world today? I love how the scholar Craig Blomberg puts it. He says this whole section of the story, from Peter's question to the end of the parable, began with man's bad eye, and then it ends with God's good eye. It's a journey from a self-focused worldview to a God-focused one.
And when you start to see with a good eye, it reframes everything. Suddenly, your wealth, your marriage, your relationships, they stop being things you're just trying to accumulate for yourself. Instead, they become vehicles, opportunities to extend God's blessing out to other people.
And that really leaves us with a pretty provocative question to chew on. This whole story pushes back against our deepest instincts about fairness and earning what we think we deserve. So, if radical generosity is the true measure of value, how does that change the way we see the world and our place in it?